Should be live, right? Hey guys, it's Bobby Legs, and welcome to today's live stream. And today is going to be a special live stream. I have my friend Axel here, and just to set it up before I introduce you guys to Axel, a few months ago, I was looking online and trying to discover maybe some off the beaten path type of German watches that we don't see here in the States. You know, we're so accustomed to seeing Zinn, Damasco, you know, Glajut Original and others. But I wanted something a little bit different. And knowing that, my chances are that I could find something that is not too popular here in the States, but of high quality, I started researching. And of course, I researched on YouTube. And I found Guinot as one of the brands. And in searching Guinot, I on YouTube, I discovered for myself Axel's channel. Now, Axel has a German YouTube channel dedicated to watches and reviews and topics, and he also has an English version. So he does double the work, which is amazing to me. So I reached out to Axel a few weeks ago because I'm always trying to find new brands, new German brands. I'm fascinated with German watches as a whole. And Axel has kindly agreed to come and impart some of his knowledge and findings of German brands to us here, especially in the States, who are not too familiar with many of these brands. So Axel, good evening in your time. Thank you for joining us tonight. And first question, what are you wearing on your wrist today?
Rob, thank you very much for inviting me to your channel. It's a pleasure and an honor. And on my wrist today, I hope you can see it, it's the Laco Frankfurt GMT.
Very, very nice. Yeah, that's a beautiful, beautiful watch. I'm wearing, for the occasion, the Guinot Series 40 chronograph, a classique. I think you did a review to a Series 40. I don't know if it was the classique.
That was the Stahlblau, the steel blue.
Okay, and because of that review, I had the confidence to go ahead and purchase this watch. And compared to the Zinn counterpart, I feel like I got a whole lot of watch for the price that I paid. So, Axel, before we get into today's topics, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us a little bit how you then made a decision to get into the YouTube content creation in regards to German watch reviews and topics. The floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've been in watches for about 15, 20 years at least. My first, let's say, more valuable watch was a watch I received from my friends and family to my 30th birthday, which means 24 years ago. It was a Camel Adventure watch, and I still do have it, one of the very few older watches I have. And I was quite happy with it for a long time. And after my studies, I moved to Frankfurt, and for that, my wife gave me a watch as a present. It was a Frederic Constant Carré Moonface.
Yeah.
And with that, the evil starts.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like a kicker for me to dig deeper and understand how the watch industry works, what makes a watch attractive. And I'm located in Frankfurt, so it was a natural fit to look into the Zinn's portfolio. And this is how I came to Zinn. It was within walking distance from my office.
Oh, nice.
So it's a pleasure and a danger. So if you can walk there at any lunch break, it can end up being very expensive.
Oh man, I couldn't imagine being and I'm a Zinn fanboy, so like I can't imagine being like that close to it. I would be a very poor man, I think.
Yeah, I hope my wife is not yet on the channel.
But you know what? You can always go back and see this. So you're in trouble anyway. Doesn't matter.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, and I started YouTube. One step back. I've been in various forums and have been writing watch reviews and have been publishing short stories for kids and other adults and these kind of stuff. So I've been doing and creating things for quite a long time, and I was looking for a new challenge. I thought doing videos would be a good one. When I look at my first videos, it wasn't a good idea. I should have trained a little bit earlier and started at a better level. My first videos are terrible.
Yeah.
They are absolutely terrible.
I've been there.
I've seen your first videos. We haven't been on the same level. You've been much better than me. Absolutely.
Well, thank you.
No, it was a nightmare. It was absolutely a nightmare. But obviously, content-wise, people thought it would be a good idea. So I was encouraged to go on.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's say hello to some of the people on the chat. There's Snuggle Tummy. How you doing? Jeffrey, what is up? Also, guys, let us know what you're wearing on your wrist in the comments. Cedar, good evening from Sweden. Thank you for the post. He responded to my post earlier when I announced it on YouTube on the post. I put 3 p.m. Eastern time, but I forgot to put in 2100 German time. So he reminded me to do that. Thank you. Amin, how you doing, buddy? Peter C, my only German watch is a 1960s Timex. Looking forward to this. Thanks. Okay. Snuggle Tummy, he's wearing the Zin U1. Jeffrey's got the 104. A lot of Zin, and we're gonna get into this into Zin very, very soon. And then Roscoe, hey gents, how you doing? Hola to DMLC Racing Channel. So, okay, I think Axel, the best way to start this discussion about some German brands that we know and some that we don't know is to actually define or maybe put into context what a German brand is, and what more so importantly, what does made in Germany mean. And so you made an incredible video about it. Let me see here. Can you see my my screen here, Axel?
Yeah, perfectly well.
Okay, so you made a great video about this about a few months ago, and you defined or revealed what does "made in Germany" mean. So, would you be so kind to kick off the discussion and let us know what does that mean to some of the people here in the States?
Yeah, absolutely. So my channel is about German watch brands, not made in Germany, and that for good reason. Any company which is located in Germany is a German watch brand, according to my personal definition. Made in Germany is not so clear and not so precise. If you hear made in Germany, you might expect it is a law or a certain rule or a codex which clearly defines which parts need to be made in Germany and what is the minimum standard for Germany. Unfortunately, that doesn't exist. So made in Germany is all about value creation. If 45% of the retail value are created in Germany, and now it becomes very unprecise, the essential production step in the eyes of the buying customer is done in Germany, then it qualifies for the label made in Germany. So what is the essential production step? For me, the movement of a watch is an essential part. Many made in Germany watches do have Swiss movements, do have Japanese movements, and they still qualify for made in Germany. So the movement, obviously, according to the general understanding, is not the essential part of a watch or the essential value creation. According to the general understanding, the watch needs to be assembled in Germany, it needs to be quality controlled in Germany, and may receive some finishing, some decoration, some polishing in Germany, which in most cases is enough to create a value of 45% of the retail value, and that qualifies for made in Germany. In the first step, it sounds a bit disappointing that there is no better quality level, no better codex in order to guarantee a quality. Having said that, made in Germany is a kind of promise, a kind of industry promise, and the industry would be stupid to damage that label. So it's a promise which worked in the past, but nothing you can claim in terms of not having fulfilled a certain standard or things like that, as long as the value creation of 45% in Germany has been fulfilled.
Wow. Okay, interesting. So now, when I think of made in Germany or German brands, I think of at least any of the brands that I'm exposed to, right? I think of very high quality. I know the term by a lot of content creators here, and I'm guilty of using it, is over-engineered or overbuilt. It sounds like that made in Germany as a promise. There's a lot of pride behind that, though. So the German watchmaker who may get its parts from other parts of the world um, and has to fulfill this 45% does it with a sense of pride, and we see that in the quality. Is that a fair statement, or is there some other brands who don't fulfill that promise?
I'm not going to bash any brand, but if you have a look at the market and you see German brands which sell watches at a retail price of 400 euro and below with a made in Germany stamp, you can't reasonably expect that many working steps and many production steps are done in Germany. You can't do it for 400 euro for a watch. So
Gotcha.
this is a watch assembled by Asian parts, assembled in Germany, quality controlled in Germany, but the material of the watch, the parts, are most certainly not produced in Germany.
Okay.
On the other hand, on the other hand, you have high-end watches like A. Lange or others, which are really proud of their in-house movements. They produce their own cases, they cut their own hands, they blew their own hands. So here we have an incredible production depth in Germany. However, you pay 10, 20, 30 times the price I just mentioned.
So then it's interesting, like a brand like Laco, because in the States here we can get a Laco watch. Of course, maybe it might have like a quartz movement or a basic like a Miyota or whatever for well under $300-$400. But you do see them reaching a high quality standard with some of their upper level watches. So there are definitely some brands, just like there are a lot of Swiss brands and Japanese brands maybe that kind of have that live in both worlds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, you please.
Yeah. No, so I think I was just wrapping up that there is, it kind of the myth of the German-made watch in my mind is really the same as a a Swiss-made or a Japanese-made in a theory that you do have some parts all around the world, and depending on the price range, you're going to get a better finish or better quality than you would if you went up or down the price range. So it's not like I had put German-made watches in a pedestal in my mind. You know what I mean? Because I've been exposed to some great brands.
Well, actually, it is. It still is. As I said, it's a promise, and the industry would be stupid to damage that.
Right.
But you can't claim it. If you receive something which doesn't meet your personal quality expectations, you can't claim, oh, it's made in Germany. It must have at least X, Y, Z. That doesn't exist.
Understood.
So it's a give and take.
Yeah. Okay. So now let's jump into before I present the next slide, the next part of the discussion, and that is some German brands that we may know here in the States that we probably know. Now, I'm not talking about the average civilian who maybe has only one watch or no watches, who probably knows certain names in the industry like a Rolex or Seiko, but that's about it. I'm talking about some who and they wouldn't have heard of brands like Zen or Damasco. But I feel like, as a watch enthusiast and many other watch enthusiasts in the community here in the States have heard, most likely with a high set of certainty, they probably have heard of Zinn, right? And they most likely have heard of Damasco. And of course Grizuta, Original, and some of the others. Um, but there's some brands out there, a lot of brands that we haven't heard of. So let's go over some of the brands, and I want to get your take on some of the brands that you've heard of, that we've heard of here, and what your opinion on is of them. So let me just bring up the presentation. So um, we're picking Zinn, Damasca. Definitely, I think most of us have heard of these. Guinaud, Tekla, maybe some of us have heard of them, but not so much. So please, we know your proximity to Zinn, but please give us your take on some of these watches.
Oh, it's an absolutely great selection. Um, let me start with the oldest watch in that collection, and that's Guinaud. Guinaud has 150 years history in watchmaking. Originally originated in Switzerland, and then moved to Frankfurt, Germany. By the way, same proximity like Zinn for me, and in the year of 2000. Interestingly, the driving power behind this was Helmut Zinn after he had sold the company Zinn in the year of 1994. In 1996, he founded a new company, Jubilaruhren, Jubilar Watches, which later transformed into Guinaud and moved Guinaud from Switzerland to Frankfurt, being a German brand now. And Guinaud has a history of 150 years uninterrupted watchmaking. Absolutely great for me.
Wow.
And you mentioned that the Guinaud has a certain proximity in the design to Zinn, and that's quite obvious since Helmut Zinn has driven that company after he had sold the company of Zinn. For me, the main difference between the both is that Guinaud is a little bit more down to earth. It's a best watch for the best price for an everyday guy, while Zinn is trying to push the limits of what's technically possible and put some technologies in the watch, like the AR capsule to keep the humidity out of the watch, the hardened cases, the anti-magnetic case, and all these kind of stuff. And that's, for me, the key differentiator between Guinaud and Zinn. Guinaud is a perfect watch for an absolutely reasonably fair price, while Zinn is trying to add a little tip on it and make the watch a little bit better and a little bit more expensive.
Yeah, I totally agree. What I found with Guinaud is you got a lot of design cues, especially this watch that we're looking at right here with the 103, and the same 103 with the same specs with the sapphire crystal and etc. Was about $500, $600 more, and that was with including the shipping of the Guinaud here and the import tax that I had to pay for it. I still felt like I got such a pretty good deal, and it's actually 2 millimeters thinner than that Zinn. What I like about Axel, and I don't know if this is the case, but it seems to be the case with a lot of German watches that I have been researching and coming across and playing around with and thinking of options of purchasing, is that a lot of these, and maybe it's because of the size of these companies, but you have a lot of room to personalize at the purchase level. So with the Guinaud, I had the choice of I did have the choice of using the Valjoux or the Sellita. I had the choice of many different variations of this dial and also straps and whatnot. So the level of a la carte was fantastic. Same like the next watch that we're going to talk about here, and that is Dekla. So your thoughts on Dekla?
But Dekla is a pretty new company, at least when it comes to watchmaking. I understand they have quite a long history in case making, and I think they are pretty interesting, particularly since they produce the watch cases in-house. They do the faces of the watch in-house, and they do the hands in-house. So
Right.
really depth of production in Germany. And when you then look at the price, I reasonably can't explain how they do it. And they do offer, they call it 6 steel, a hardened steel, which makes the watch pretty scratch resistant, similar to the tegument technology of Sinn. I haven't seen them in real. I have contacted them, and we're kind of exploring each other, to put it that way.
Right.
I really like to see one on my desk and have a review. I think they are absolutely interesting in terms of what they do, how they do, and how much they charge.
I agree. And then and Tekla also offers Flieger type watches. I like this model, the Turbulence. It's very explorerish, you know, but you still have the elements of a flight, a Flieger watch with those beautiful sword hands and the just the look and the and legibility. Now, one thing I have to say, and what I've noticed when I've done a lot of research on German brands, they really like this ice hardening type technology. There's so many brands do that. I don't know if you see that in other like Swiss brands or Japanese brands. They really pay attention to making that case almost indestructible, don't they?
Well, actually, there are two different technologies. Ice hardening is one.
Right.
This is what Damasco did for quite a long time.
Yep.
The tegument technology is slightly different. That is, carbon atoms dilute into the steel pattern of the watch and harden the surface. So it's the intrusion of carbon atoms into the steel pattern without making it less stainless. So quite interesting one, but it's different from ice hardening.
Right, right. And is the tegumented proprietary to Zen? Or
No, they they don't officially say it, but Damasco and Zinn have cooperated in the past, and both use the same technology. For me, it's not quite clear who invented it. Zinn calls it tegument, Damasco calls it differently, but I'm absolutely sure the technology is the same, since they cooperated a couple of years ago, and Damasco produced some cases for Zinn, as Guinand produced complete watches for Zinn in the 60s. So these three companies are kind of related, although they are competitors nowadays.
So I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Ur Zinner is wearing a Zinn 144 today. That's a beautiful, awesome watch. Jerry's been thinking about this watch. He sent me a message. The Mulgazut. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the pronunciation.
May I step in here? Glashütte.
Glashütte.
Perfect.
All right, I'm practically German now. Glashütte. Okay, so he's a. Have you seen this? The rescue timer, the SAR rescue timer.
I owned it a couple of years ago, and there are many great things about that watch. It is incredibly comfortable on the wrist. It has no sharp edges. It was made for the stuff on the rescue boats on the German sea crafts. It is a perfect watch, perfect size, but there's one thing I couldn't stand, and that is the magnifying glass for the date.
Okay.
It is not on the top of the glass. It is milled into the glass, which makes it extremely hard to read. You have to look at the watch from a 90-degree angle from the top. Otherwise, you can't read the date. And this was something which annoyed me anytime I looked at the watch, and finally I sold it. If this hasn't been, I'm pretty sure I would still have it.
Wow. Interesting. Now Cedar is wearing his Archimedes Outdoor 39. That's a very nice looking watch.
I have an idea how Cedar got this one.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want to share that secret, or is that just going to remain a secret?
I don't think it's a secret.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure he saw it on my channel.
Oh, okay. Oh, There you go.
By, by, by,
Design.
by the
Yeah,
way, that's this one here.
that is. Yep. That's a now. What do you think about that watch? How do you like it?
It's an absolutely great watch.
Yeah.
This one is the 41,
Hmm.
the 41 anti-mag. The 39 is a little bit slimmer, a little bit lighter, has a hardened steel. We just talked about that.
Yeah.
Um, given the price tag, it's an absolutely great watch. Give or take €1,000 for a watch with 200-meter water resistance, anti-mag case, or hardened steel. Absolutely great.
That's the one thing you can't take away as an observer of German watches now, in the last couple of years. The price for what you get, I think, is exceptional. The equivalent in the Swiss made side or the Japanese side, I don't think is there. I think the value, that's just my personal opinion, is with the German watches, especially in this mid-range in particular.
Um, let me take a note. Cedar just mentioned
Oh,
Archimede does the cases by the Moen. Um, well, not only those, Archimede belongs to Ickler. Ickler is a case manufacturer who creates cases for all of their brands and a wide share of the German watch industry. So they are a big player in case making, and they create cases for each of their production lines. They don't have two cases for the same case for two lines. Each line has an individual case, no reuse of a design. Absolutely great. So thanks for that hint. Coming back to your question, the price difference. For Swiss made, you have a similar rule to made in Germany, and
hmm.
that's not 45%, but
60.
60% of the
Yep.
value creation. And given that the wages in Switzerland are much higher than in Germany, uh, you have to pay more without getting much more.
That's interesting. That's interesting. But they do have the movements, right?
They do
So
have the movements.
so maybe the cost of the movements for them is not as much as what a German brand may have to pay for it coming from Switzerland. So
Most certainly, yeah.
yeah. So designs. I'm getting a Zinn one day. That's my first German on the list. I've said now for a while. I think from a standpoint of being outside of Germany, maybe specifically to the United States, for me in particular, I will say that Zinn is the best. Zinn 104 is the best gateway into Zinn watches, and I believe also the 104 is possibly for somebody who's never owned a German watch before is probably the best gateway into German watch collecting in a whole. That's just my opinion because I think the 104 is a great everyday watch. It's a good looking watch. And it's built very, very well, and it was reasonably priced. Now those prices are getting a little bit higher too on the 104, especially here in the States. I don't know how it is in where you are, Axel, but the prices are just creeping up a little bit more. But they hold their value pretty well too. So in a secondary market, you're not going to get too much of a break on them.
No, I totally agree. The 104 is a absolutely great entry level watch into the Zinn world. In Germany, it's don't name it down to €50, €1,200,
Hmm.
more or less. And it has a really nice size with 41 millimeter, and it's not too thick, it's not too heavy. It is pretty versatile. You can have it on a bracelet. You can
Yeah.
attach it to a couple of leather straps. It looks good on a NATO or a Zulu.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty versatile watch. And with the the indices variant, you have a more dressier one. With the A, with the Arabic numbers,
Yep.
you have a more sportier one. So it's really nice entry watch. Alternatively, you could choose the 556, but with a 38 millimeter, it might be too small for many adult people.
Yeah, I mean, so you could go 856. Now the price is going to get a little bit more, and you do have that tegmented matted look, so it may not be a great necessarily dress watch, but it's tougher for an everyday watch for sure. I have
Yeah.
a UTC 856, and that alone, I think that is just a great everyday watch. It's such a solid watch.
It's a perfectly solid watch. I had one too, but I sold it because I don't like the UTC scale in the middle of the dial. I like to have it on an outer ring. It was too
Yeah.
full, the dial. So this was
I,
the only part I didn't like.
I love it because for me it's different than most UTC or GMT watches I see out
Yeah,
there. So it was a little bit different, and that's why I like it. Plus, it is very nondescript, very low profile. If I'm traveling, nobody's gonna care what I'm wearing. They don't even see the watch,
yeah.
and I think that's what's great about it. Design also has another question. With the proliferation of YouTube, Instagram, and social media, do you think the perception of German brands have changed? So I don't know if you being in Germany, I don't know if you get to see that from the outside, but is that something that you can speak about? Or
Well, I sit in Germany, so it is really difficult for me
yeah,
to make up my mind on the perception of German brands because it has
right,
been the same and it didn't change.
yeah,
Um, but given the fact that I see a lot of people from other countries who watch my channel, both my German one and my English one, I at least feel a certain increased interest in German brands.
right. Right. Definitely with YouTube, Instagram, and social media, the awareness is more out there. Like I said earlier, we're aware of Zin as enthusiasts. We're pretty much aware of Damasco, and I think we're starting to become aware of many more of the mid-tier German watches and affordable tier German watches as well. It's just a shame that when we order them, we had to order them and they have to be shipped from Germany, and we got to pay the shipping and the tax because there's not that many authorized dealers because it is not as well known. But
Oh,
hopefully, yeah,
for Zin, you've got watch buys, don't you?
we do have watch buys. That's an exception. And Damasco there's actually a couple authorized dealers. But something like a Decla, for example, or Guinot, we have to go, if we can't find it in a secondary market from somebody here in the States, chances are we have to go to Germany.
To be honest, Guinot would be a pity to have a redistributor. If you call Guinot, you have with Matthias Klü, the CEO, directly on the phone. If you talk to Petra, you talk to his wife.
Yeah.
So
I've emailed her.
yeah,
So,
it's a totally flat hierarchy,
yeah.
and that's why you get customization so easy because you
Yeah.
ask it an answer and the answer stands. It doesn't need recertification. No one needs
Yeah.
to be asked. You get the answer from the highest possible level, and that's really great. And I wouldn't change that versus a redistributor or whatever.
No, that is true, but I just would love to see them succeed even more at another level. And selfishly, I would like to see more representation here in the States, so I don't have to pay that income. Well, I'm sure I pay the tax somehow, but so let's segue into the next part of the presentation, and that is the brands that we might not have heard of. We've already talked about some of them here, um, but there are a couple really interesting ones that I can't wait to share with everybody. So um, let's just zoom in this slide here. And so we got Turby. Is it Leams? Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, it's limes.
Limes. Okay.
If you pronounce it the English way, limes,
Limes.
lime
Right. Right.
translates in German into glue.
Okay. Okay. So we're not going to call them limes. We're going to go limes, limes. Sorry. Archimedes and a really interesting one, VDB 20. We'll save that one for last. But Turby's actually one that I kind of discovered for myself about 6 or 7 months ago. I was looking for. Um, I'm a big fan of Dornbluthenzone. I hope I'm
Yep.
close to that pronunciation. And but at the price point here, it was maybe a little bit higher than I was willing to go for at the time. So I was trying to find some alternatives, and I found Torby, and they have some really interesting watches. They have a lot of genre types of watches. They have divers, they have fliegers, they have marine style watches. And what I liked about Torby was, well, the price and the level. Again, the level of customization that you have as a consumer um, to work with. You know, you can get this incredible decoration. Of course, you have to pay for it of the movement. What do you think about Torby?
Turbi is for me one of the biggest surprises in the watch industry. If you keep in mind that the brand started in 2007 only, so it's only
Mm,
13 years old, and already received a major order from the US Navy for their pilots, customized watches for their pilots after 13 years being at the market.
wow,
Absolutely amazing.
wow.
And the owner of the company, it's a guy called Erdal Yildiz. He started the business when he was below 30, so was quite young, established a brand, and started with a pocket watch from his grandfather, used the Unitas movements,
Hmm.
and all of the watches have a design link to classical watches. Even the Blue Diver is not extremely extraordinary or fancy. It has a clear quote to classical dive watches. And that's his style, combined with an incredible craftsmanship in decoration. If you have a look at his website and see the fully manually decorated and engraved movement, of course you have to pay for it. It goes up to 1,800 euro, but this is no longer a watch. That's art.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, while we're at it, since let me see if I can bring up the site here.
It's
Chrome tab, the Turby watches. So can you see the
yeah,
site? Okay.
yeah,
So yeah, so I'll show you the one in particular I was looking at. It was this enamel 40, very handsome watch. You know, enamel dial, very classic looking. You have that minute track, like a lot of the marine
yeah.
watches. But here's where it gets like really interesting, right? So you can get, you know, that watch for about 15 euro, 100 euro, as is with an alligator strap. But then you can a la carte add some things. And some of the movements, let me see. Okay, I have to click on a link here. You can have this premium movement, the top movement. Let's see here, this premium movement here, and so you can start getting some sort of decoration here with the movement, and change that 6498 from something maybe plain, maybe it has some sort of Geneva
Yeah.
stripes, or that sunburst that's very more German, I think, to something more sophisticated. Let me see if I could pull that up.
Um,
Um,
if you may go to the top and look at the customization and then the movements.
right.
There's
So they have the right custom made. Is it not loading up? Oh, movement. Okay, right here.
yeah. Sorry,
So
I
yeah,
had the
I mean,
German one.
yep. So I mean, look, this is absolutely stunning. Now I did reach out to them, and they do send this. They really weren't. They didn't give me too much detail, right? But they do send this. They don't do this in house. This engraving, they do send it to somebody to get it engraved. That was my understanding. I don't know if anything got lost in translation, but so what? It's beautiful, um, and I think, you know, well worth the money. And I think that's what you know, a company like a brand like Torby offering something like this is pretty amazing.
Absolutely. Also,
Uh,
the watch which is the background with the world map.
yes, that one right here. Yeah, that is beautiful. And then they have this other watch here, um, the Sea Heavens. It kind of reminds me of a Moser a little bit, you know. so
Uh, well,
so it's a beautiful watch.
kind of. If you have a look at the dial,
Yeah.
the Moser has the sunburst which goes
Hmm.
out of the center to the outer circles, which you don't have in that
No,
way here.
not so much here, but at first look with the simple hands,
Absolutely, yeah.
I
The
see.
leaf hands, and yeah.
Yep, I see. Very resembles a whole lot Moser here. Let's just check the comments here. Um, yep, Turby watches, and looks like there's some American football talk going on. So we won't put those up right now because we're talking German watches. So let me get back to our other screen. Just bear with me. Okay. And here we go. Okay, so now let's move to Limas. I'm sorry.
Well, it's like Christmas with Limas.
Limas. So this is a brand I haven't heard about until you mentioned it in our email. So tell us a little about this brand.
Yeah. Well, Limas and Archimede belong to Ickler.
Mm-hmm.
Ickler is a German case manufacturer owned in the 4th generation by the family of Ickler. And they basically have 4 watch brands. Limas and Archimede are the key brands. Then they have a lower price brand with quartz movements. It's Outran and Viala. And the brother of Lisa runs the company today, has De facto, which is a more designish company,
Yep.
not so much in terms of durability or water resistance. It's more the design aspect, which is in the focus. But the key brands are Limas and Archimede. Limas is a little bit more on the dressier side, while Archimede more on the sporty side. I've talked to Lisa and asked, where do you draw the line? How do you define the brands? What is your core of the brand? And she told me, well, we never asked ourselves, we just founded the brands, so that they are kind of overlapping.
Right, and so and you also mentioned Archimede, and this is one of the watches. This is the outdoor chronograph. It's still a great price. I assume it's probably either Valjoux 7750 in there, or maybe a Sellita 500, depending on what they have in stock. But Archimede, another brand that I sort of heard of them. But I really didn't know. I had no idea of the history, and I didn't know anything about the parent company Ickler until you had mentioned it. So thank you for doing that, because that is very helpful, and it's great to have somebody like you explain that to us. Because I would have never known any of the details of that.
And if you look for a fresh sports watch, this is the Archimede Sports Diver.
Oh, let me shut this screen here. Yep.
Can you see that?
Oh yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
This one retails around 800, 900 euro with a sapphire crystal, 300-meter water resistance. Absolutely great, and it's really a good price, I think.
So I think we converted Roscoe. He wants a Torby now. Very emphatically wants a Torby. Now, some of the watches that you had suggested are just so interesting. Let me show you. You sent me a link earlier, and I wanna pull this up here. Very interesting. I've seen these watches. I've seen this company before. Alexander Skorokov, is it? Shorokov. And so these are really super interesting. I gotta tell you, man, Axel, I kind of love these watches that have these artistic dials, very much like a Jacques Droz or whatnot. I know this is crazy. And it's not for everybody. But I love dials with birds on it. I don't know why.
Have you seen the tourbillon for 26,000 euro?
No, let's see if we can find it here.
They have a tourbillon. It's absolutely great. Alexander Shorokov, it's an interesting person. He's a Russian. He's a Russian engineer and architect. who came over to Germany in 1991 and founded the Europe distribution company for Polyot, the Russian watch brand, and then decided to build his own one with a reference to his Russian roots. So it's a kind of Baroque style of watches.
I mean, I totally dig it. Let's see, can I get a quick view here? I mean, look at that thing. That is bananas.
Yeah.
That is crazy. I love it. And I think it's so different that that's why I like it. So very, very interesting watch. Let's
But
see here. Yeah.
but they do also have technical interesting watches, not just color and design. They for example have a regulateur chronograph, something I haven't seen before.
So is it this one right here?
Let
me see if I can do it.
No.
Can you see it, Axel?
Yeah, exactly. No,
Yeah.
that's not a regulateur. That's a
regulator. Oh, regulator. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I have seen their regulators because I kind of am a fan of regulators. This has got to be one right here, right?
Yeah.
It looks like one.
The yellow one should be, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look at that thing. I mean, that's amazing. I would assume now, is he using 6498s on these pieces? It says limited to 425 pieces.
No,
Doesn't really have much information on that.
It's a regulator, but not a chronograph. But doesn't mind.
Right. But I mean, if I wonder if he's using the Unitas 6498. Yeah. But that's anyway. I mean, that's just, and it has I assume that's a jumping hour. That's got to be a jump hour, I would imagine.
Probably yes.
Yeah,
I've seen the watches on a trade fair,
and
the colors are amazing. So what you see in the picture is not even close to what the watches look in reality.
Of course, I can imagine. I can imagine if I saw one of those in person, I'd have to buy. I'd have to buy. I'd have to buy it. Now, another watch that you brought up to my attention is very, very interesting. It's this VDB watches. Now, can you see my screen? Yeah. So very, very interesting. Let's go over here. If you go on the cover, and it's not pulling up, but you see Johnny Depp. He's kind of in here somewhere. But super, super interesting watches. Now they're huge. The dimensions are probably too big for my wrist. But they're really awesome looking. And so what do you know about these? What can you tell us about them?
Oh, the watches are massive.
Yeah.
But the lug to lug is not that big. So I tried a couple of them on a trade fair, and even on my 17 centimeter wrist, which is 6 3/4 of an inch.
Okay, that's exactly mine.
They look reasonable. Well, it's not a slim watch. Yeah, you can't argue that.
Yeah.
But it's really, really massive. And what I really do like are a couple of factors. The watch company sits in Erfurt, well, that's a city in eastern Germany and a city where my father was born. So I have a sympathy for that brand. And the owner creates two different lines. One of the standard lines, which you can buy, and then you have a couple of watches which are limited. And for those, he does the case by hand, which doesn't mean in-house. By hand means he takes a rasp and does the case by hand.
So are we talking about these watches here? They're called custom watches?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Look at this thing.
And so he does the hands with a rasp, not a machine, not drilled. It's really hand craftsmanship. Amazing.
That is amazing.
And the leather straps are from a local shoemaker, so nothing imported. It's really a locally made watch, and I really do like it. I can't say I'm a fan of the design, but I like the philosophy.
For sure. And I'm sure they're not cheap. I'm sure they cost a pretty penny, especially the handmade ones, right?
The handmade ones are definitely not a bargain, but the others are, as far as I recall correctly, in the range of 2 to 3,000 euro.
That's not bad.
So it's
Yeah.
it's not a bargain, but it's not what you would expect if you see the watches and hear the history.
So this looks like a Rolex GMT on steroids. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, obviously, it's not. There's some references, some similarities with the bezel and the color, um, but
and
it
and the
is it
dome
is
sapphire. Yeah,
yeah, and it don't sapphire, of course, but that is insane, and I'm sure 19 millimeter case thickness. That's that is a big
it's a
watch.
beast. It's a
Yeah.
beast.
Awesome. Let's see if we have any more comments here. Um, it's like advertising for Moscow Olympics. Okay, I'm not really think I missed that one. So, Axel, we're coming close to the hour that we talked about. Really enjoyed having you on today. I think you had mentioned to me, and I'm gonna let the secret out that this was like your first time you've done a stream, and it wasn't that bad. I think you did great, man. Please, before I let you go, I'm going to beg you, please come back again in a few months and let's talk about watches, German watches again, because I feel like I've gotten so much out of this, and I feel like a lot of people on the chat have. Do you have any final thoughts? Do you have anything else that you'd like to add to what we were talking about today? Please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure to be on your channel and your live stream. I really did enjoy it, and I'm more than happy to come back. And hopefully, we can have some surprises. Maybe we can talk about some micro brands which just released some new watches. There are some to be released. I don't know if you have heard about Heinrich or Circular. They are going to
I don't think.
release some retro divers this year in the start of the 70s. Very interesting, and would be really nice to talk about these kind of watches, or whatever you like.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely going to take a look at some of these other brands that you had mentioned on an email before, one of our first emails, because eventually I'm going to be in the market again for some German watches, and I really love some of the great stuff that's coming out of Germany. I'm a big fan. I'd love to have you every few months if you're okay with that, and we can just talk German watches because there's a whole lot. There's a lot of people in this part of the world here in the States who are looking for more information about German watches. I know a lot of my enthusiast friends were really excited to have you on today, and I hope your channel continues with this success and it keeps on growing because you do have a great channel, very informative, and I really appreciate the knowledge that you shared with us tonight. Really do. Thank you so much.
Rob, thank you. Pleasure was all mine.
Okay, guys, thanks for coming to
See you.
another live stream, and I'll see you next week. For next Friday, I'll be doing a collection review for another subscriber, and I'm very excited about doing that one as well. And guys, have a good night, good afternoon, and enjoy the rest of the weekend. See you then.